In today's Adobe Illustrator tutorial, you will learn how to create illustrations with perspective. I'll show you 15 must-know perspective tips and will share time-saving tracing method for illustrations with perspective. You will learn how to quickly create custom perspective grids and use them to draw sketches, how to start to create cityscapes at last instead of learning endless theory, and how to use basic Adobe Illustrator tools and features to get professional results. By the end of this tutorial, you will know perspective basics, how perspective works, and will learn amazing methods that will help you in each illustration that you will create. You're watching TNT Tutorials? Let's move on! In case if you wonder why I don't use the Perspective Grid tool, here's the answer. Perspective Grid tool won't allow you to understand and use perspective professionally and will only limit your possibilities. In the same time, that doesn't mean that the Perspective Grid tool is useless. I can make a tutorial about where you can use the Perspective Grid tool, so ask me in the comments below and I will make a video about it if I'll see that you want it. To understand things that I will show you, just watch tutorial until the end. Then everything will be clear for you. Right now I will teach you how to create your own custom perspective grid in a few seconds. Select Print, A4, and click on Create. To create custom perspective grid, we will need only Line Segment tool and Rotate tool. You can pick Line Segment tool here, or press this button on your keyboard to quickly pick it. I will hold Shift and drag line like this. Now let's press R for Rotate tool. Rotate tool is over here. Hold Alt or Option key and click on this anchor point. In this window, enter 360, divide. I would recommend you to enter 150. But you can experiment, create different grids, and use different values. After this, let's click on Copy, then hold Ctrl or Command plus D, and let it create copies for you. Somewhere here, I will release D, I still hold Ctrl or Command, and then press D to add copies one by one. We don't need this black spot here, so let's press Ctrl plus A to select all lines, Properties, Stroke, Profile, select Width Profile 4, flip along, and you will get this great result. I will select these lines once again, Swatches, make sure that Stroke is selected, and let's pick some color. What I like to do, and you can skip this step, let's select all these lines, hold Alt or Option key, and change proportions here like this. As I already told you, you can skip this step or use it as you want. So this is our first vanishing point, and today we won't stop only with one vanishing point. So let's rename this layer to first. I will simply enter 1, drag this layer here to duplicate it, rename this one to second, lock first layer, let's click here to select second layer, swatches, change color, then A for direct selection tool. Make sure that you're not picking any lines, click somewhere between them, and drag selection to grab only these central points. Let's hold Alt or Option key, use scroll on your mouse or tablet to zoom out. You can see that these points are deselected, and these ones are selected. You can also press Z for zoom tool, and simply move your mouse to the left or to the right. A for direct selection tool, hold Shift, and move these points up, like this. I will select first layer and decrease opacity for it. You should decrease or increase opacity just to see lines better. So this one is done. There's a lot can be said about the horizon line, and I can explain it in the future videos if you want, so don't hesitate to ask me in the comments below to let me know. Talking about today's cityscape, we will create a long street with buildings towering to the sky, and to get this effect, you can place horizon line as you can see here, or even lower. This vanishing point is on the horizon line. In other words, we will place horizon line on this vanishing point. A for direct selection tool, select only these central points, pay attention that I locked second layer. Let's start to move these points down and hold Shift. Place these vanishing points somewhere here. I will select all these lines, Properties, and decrease opacity to something like this. I will unlock both layers, Here's how you can quickly create a few custom grid templates. Create new layer, rename it to template number 1, drag these layers here, then simply duplicate this layer, make this one invisible, and rename this one to template number 2. Open it, lock one of these vanishing points, let's pick this one, and move this vanishing point even lower. You can create a few combinations. To see how they will look, you can click on View, Trim View, and then switch between these templates. After this, you can press on Ctrl or Command plus Shift plus S. Save them as PDF, one by one. Then you can print them and draw sketches with pen or pencil, or open these templates in Adobe Photoshop, draw sketch using tablet, or you can use method that I will show you soon to create what you need right in Adobe Illustrator. Sketch doesn't need to be ideal, it can be really rough, some lines can go between grid lines, so don't be too precise and draw anything that you want. You simply need to have a base and then use time-saving method that I will show you right now to trace everything ideally and easily. Let's continue with tracing. I've created A4 document. First of all, let's check Settings, Edit, Preferences, Smart Guides. Make sure that you have the same settings in your preferences. Now let's place Sketch. You can download Sketch and Colors by the link in the video description. Then click on File, Place, and find path to download that sketch. We will use clean sketch version, but your sketch can be really rough. Let's decrease sketch opacity, lock this layer, create new layer. Let's rename this layer to Vanishing Points, select Fill, click on None, L for Ellipse tool, hold Shift, plus Space to be able to move ellipse like this, then release buttons, and move ellipse if you need to. Also, what you can notice is that I don't have grid on this sketch. That's because I've created this sketch in Photoshop, and grid was on different layer. I simply turned grid off and saved this file. To create another vanishing point, I will hold Alt, move this ellipse up, and hold Shift also. Now we have a copy. Let's pick Line Segment tool. I will draw a line from this corner to match degree of this wall, and place final point of this line right in the center of this ellipse. It will snap. Now A for Direct Selection tool, drag selection to grab ellipse and final point of this line. You can zoom out, selection will still be active. A for Direct Selection tool, start to move these objects, and hold Shift to move them straight. You should simply match needed degree. It can be a little bit different, so don't worry. Hold Space to navigate through Workspace, Direct Selection tool, select only this needed area, move it, hold Shift, and as you can see I matched needed degree. Let's delete this line, lock Vanishing Points layer, let's create new layer, and rename it to Lines. Today we will use only 3 types of lines. We will use this line, and this line. I don't want to overwhelm you with information, and will simply notice that we will have this kind of line also, but you should not pay attention to it for now. This is just for decoration, and these lines won't guide to vanishing points, just the same as this line. Let's call this line horizontal line. This kind of line is for first vanishing point, and this is second vanishing point. Now let me show you how to trace quickly and easily. When we will trace objects, we will drag lines right from the central of vanishing points to needed destination. But that will take some time, and you will need to snap each time to drag needed line. So here's the way how you can avoid this. Let's create line from center of this vanishing point, let it be short, and place it here. After this, press A for Direct Selection tool, simply pick this point, press Ctrl C, Ctrl F, then select this point again, and drag it. Then you can do the same, or you can simply pick this point, Ctrl C, Ctrl F again, pick this point again. You can quickly make copies, and as you can see, these sides of this object are already traced. You should never delete this line. When you will trace these objects, you will press A for direct selection tool, pick this point, and then move it here to duplicate it and move to these objects. Then trace them like this. When you will see that you want to decrease stroke width, let's press Ctrl plus A, Properties, and decrease stroke width. Now let's do the same with this vanishing point. Line segment tool, start to draw line from center. Let's zoom out, A for direct selection tool, pick this anchor point, then move this line here, and let it stay here. Select this point, Ctrl C, Ctrl F, A for direct selection tool, pick this anchor point, and then move it, like this. Then make more copies. Now let's draw horizontal lines. What you should pay attention to is that when you will need to move final points of lines, just as we already did, you should click on these final points twice. First time you will select point, and second time you will pick it and move it. If you won't do this, there is a chance that you will move line instead of only final point of this line. And in this case, this line will be moved out of center of vanishing point, and your perspective will be broken. So make sure that you are selecting point, and only after this, you are moving it. Now let's talk about intersections. A for direct selection tool, let's select these lines, and what you don't want to have is these intersections. They must be ideal, and it's very easy to make them ideal, so don't forget to do this. I will simply pick this anchor point, move it away. You should also don't be afraid to move this line as you want. You should not follow smart guides in this case, because final point of this line is right on the center of vanishing point, so everything is perfectly correct. And when you want to have ideal intersection, just let this point snap here, like this. As you can see, we have wrong intersections here and here. Here's how to quickly fix them. Let's pick this final anchor point, snap it to this intersection, then move it here, using smart guides. This line should be pink, then release it, and after this, pick this anchor point, move it somewhere here, and then snap to this intersection. After this, you will probably need to move this anchor point to intersection again. Here we will simply pick this point and snap it to this intersection. What we also need in this method is overlapping. Always make sure that all lines overlap just a bit. We can see overlapping here and here, but we don't have it here. So let's pick this point and move it like this. We've created base of this object, and we don't need all these long lines, so let's press C for scissors tool and simply cut them like this. Then V for selection tool and delete unneeded parts. You won't need to drag some points to overlap lines each time, because you should simply create longer lines and then simply cut them. In cases when point is not snapping to intersection, you should simply deselect it, select it again, and try again. As you can see, I've deleted line from second vanishing point, so I will create it again. I will show you how to create ellipse in perspective, because you can see this obvious distortion. Let's pick this point, make a copy, and what we should do is we need to quickly create rectangle in area when we want to have ellipse. Simple as that. Now L for ellipse, hold Shift, pick Shear tool in this panel, use it like this. Let's move this ellipse here, Shear tool again, V for selection tool, change proportions of this ellipse, Shear tool again, V for selection tool. You should have similar result, then you can simply delete unneeded lines, and here we go. You will create all other objects absolutely in the same way as I just showed you. For example, I will quickly trace this house. I will use only these two lines, copy them, and use direct selection tool to move them. When you will see that you have too many lines, that means that it is time to get rid of them. C for Scissors tool and simply delete all unneeded lines. I will create horizontal line from intersection. Make sure that I will have overlap in here. After this, I'll pick this point, Ctrl C, Ctrl F, move this point here, and snap this point to this intersection. Then I will make sure that I will have overlap in here also. And we can delete unneeded line here, and unneeded lines here also. Notice that I have overlapping in each of these lines. Let's create horizontal line from this intersection. And as I already showed you, we need to make ideal intersection right here. Then use Smart Guides and drag this line anywhere you need. And here's how it should look. No unneeded lines, ideal intersections, and everything is overlapping. Sometimes our lines will be different than sketch, and that's okay, because we're sure that everything is absolutely correct and ideal. As you can see, I use a few hints over and over again. There's nothing else that I will use to trace such objects. Take a look at this area. Perspective moves away from us to the top. That means that size of these panels will be smaller and smaller. So let me show you how to adjust correct scaling. And for rectangle tool, I will simply create 3 rectangles here, select them, press Ctrl G to group them, hold Alt or Option key to duplicate them. After this effect, distort and transform, transform, and in vertical, enter 90%. Then click OK, Object, Expand Appearance, move them down, and do absolutely the same until you will get to the top. After this, simply create horizontal lines according to these rectangles. Smart Guides will help you. Create line from center of this ellipse, duplicate this line, and do the same as we already did. You should have this result. It might seem hard, but it's very easy and fast to do. Now let me show you how to trace all objects at once. I'm talking about these windows. And also I want to show you what to do when you have a lot of lines created and you're getting confused and distracted. So before we will start with these windows, press Ctrl or Command plus A to select all lines, and after this press Ctrl or Command plus 3 to make everything invisible. To make everything visible again, simply press Ctrl or Command plus Alt or Option key plus 3. So I will make everything invisible again. Drag one line from this vanishing point, then one line from this vanishing point. Let's copy these lines. Now let's use horizontal lines. We will start from intersection, then pick this line, place it to needed intersection, drag it as we need after this, use Smart Guides. Then let's draw a line from this intersection, do the same. Sometimes you will need to think before you will do something. This is not as hard as it seems, you should simply need some practice. Now let's use Scissors tool. After everything will be traced, you can delete vanishing points, then press M for rectangle tool, make sure that you will have color only on stroke, create a rectangle here, then drag this layer here to make a copy, make this layer invisible. In Lines layer, create rectangle again, swap fill and stroke, swatches, and pick any color that you want. Now let's press Ctrl or Command, plus Shift, plus left brackets to bring this rectangle down. Now press Ctrl or Command plus A to select everything, Properties, Pathfinder, More Options, and select Divide. Deselect this area, select it again, and press Ctrl plus Shift plus G to ungroup everything. Let me show you what problems can you have. You can have some objects united, that might happen. A for direct selection tool, let's simply move these points like this, then Shift plus M for shape builder, and now you can separate these objects. Just click on one of them. Now we don't have problem here, we have two different objects. We have the same problem here. Sometimes you won't even need to drag anything. Just press Shift plus M for Shape Builder and click on one of these objects. To understand what objects should you pick, just make Lines copy layer visible, lock it, and then group objects that will obviously have the same colors. For example, we know that we will have the same colors on these panels, so let's select them. Press Ctrl G to group and adjust any color that you want. I know that I will have the same colors on these panels also, so I will select them. Press Ctrl plus G to group and adjust color. To use swatches that you can download below this video, click here on Swatches, then on this little menu, open Swatch Library, Other Library, and find Path to downloaded swatches. You can adjust colors one by one or group objects. Don't forget to make lines copy layer invisible. You'll have clean picture. Also, what you should notice is that after we used divide, we have these lines on our objects. They are invisible, so don't worry, but if you don't want to have them, simply create any shape, rectangle for example, on top of any object, then hold Shift, select both shapes, Properties, Pathfinder, Unite, and you will have clean shape. Also don't forget to use gradients. If you learned something new from this tutorial, drop a comment below. Let me know if everything was clear enough for you and what you liked about this video. If you enjoyed this tutorial, support this channel by clicking on subscribe, and what's most important, by clicking on the bell icon to get notifications about newest tutorials from TNT. I would also appreciate if you will click thumbs up and will share this video. This was TNT Tutorials. See you in next videos!